Hello and welcome to another episode of Understanding CBD. We have a special episode today. This is Cannabis Vocabulary with Stacy Rae, who's always getting healthy, not high. So let me bring Stacy in and we can start our conversation. Hey, Stacy.
Hi, Steve.
How's it going over there in Kansas City?
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. It's doing. How about you?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, we're in Maryland and it's actually a nice day today. So
Same here.
it's good. And I'm really excited about this topic of cannabis vocabulary because as we talk so many times, there's like so many different words for the same thing. People get confused. So I really think it'll be helpful for a lot of people just to do like just an overview of the words and terms. And you also you have experience with some legal practice as a paralegal, right? And terms and words are very important there.
Oh, big time. Yeah, especially when you have different types of law and then one word you use it wrong, it means something else. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So let's clear up some of this, some of these vocabulary words around cannabis. Did you have a list or some place you'd like to start today?
Well, in my book, I have a little section called Cannabis Cousins. Thank you.
Let me
Thank you. Yes. In the kitchen with the CBD Recipe Guru. But I have a section in my book for cannabis cousins. And so I try to make it really simple. I mean, I'm not the expert on all the plants and all the details like you are. You're like the CBD guru. I'm the CBD recipe guru.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And so I'm a lay person who's learned, just by wanting to educate myself and everything. So in terms of that, I found out that because so many people say, well, cannabis, so am I going to, get high if I smoke cannabis? And my brain just kind of goes, wait a minute, cannabis is a type of plant. I mean, a variety of plant. And underneath that variety, it's like an umbrella. There are 3 different subspecies, and one is marijuana, and one is hemp, and the other is called ruderalis. And so they're all under the cannabis umbrella, if you will. So I call them cannabis cousins, So that was just because then people go, what, really? Because they thought cannabis was just a thing, like a one thing, and it's not, right, Steve?
Yeah, well, the scientific term for the plant is Cannabis sativa L.
Okay.
And that's the scientific term for the plant.
Okay.
And it's in the Cannabaceae family of plants. And it also shares that genealogy, I guess would be the word. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor.
Me neither.
I study stuff. So if we say something wrong, correct us in the comments. We're very open to being corrected.
Yes.
So in the Cannabaceae family with hops, which people may not know.
I heard that.
Hops are also in the same family as cannabis. But I'm glad you brought it up because the word cannabis means a lot to many different people. But Cannabis sativa L scientifically, and as you mentioned, they're cousins.
Yeah.
So the cousins. Let's use some more vocabulary here. So what are the names of the cousins? You mentioned there's
marijuana.
Hemp. So all right, marijuana,
hemp,
and then ruderalis.
Ruderalis.
Let's talk about the word marijuana.
Okay.
So what to you? What does that mean?
Well, I guess I'm really old school. I'm kicking it old school, because like even when I look things up, I just see there's marijuana, there's hemp, there's the hemp, the hemp law, the marijuana law, I just think marijuana is what you smoke generally to get high. And hemp is something generally used in the past for industrial purposes, food purposes, and now for CBD purposes. So that's it. That's all I've, known it to be.
Yeah. And that's true. Like most people know marijuana as the intoxicating cannabis.
Yeah.
And the term did, and there is some I guess a little bit of controversy with the word, and some people feel it is, and some people don't. And there have been different states that have passed laws to strike the word marijuana from the books because they feel that it's racist. Now it's it's, cannabis or marijuana, intoxicating marijuana back in the Reefer Madness days was introduced to the U.S. from Mexico. So some people use the word marijuana as a racist term, a derogatory term towards Mexicans in that way. And so because it has been used that way, some people feel that it's not the correct word. But if you respect the plant, there's other people that also feel that it's a sacred plant. And just like your name is Stacy, if I called you something else, then that wouldn't be your name. So you would want to be called and addressed what your name is. And plants do have consciousness. So people believe that, and they don't want to call it a derogatory term. So they want it to be referred to as cannabis, which just really makes a lot of things confusing, because you have medical cannabis, you have medical marijuana, and then just like you mentioned, you have this other term, hemp. But just we can move on to hemp. But for marijuana, it typically means the intoxicating cannabis plant. And whether you call it medical marijuana or whatnot, I think most people know what you talk about when you say marijuana.
Yeah. Thank you. That's fascinating. This is the first time I have ever heard about that.
Yeah, and it's just for consumers, it can be very hard, because like when I talk to people about hemp and CBD, they're like, is that marijuana?
Yeah,
and it's really a lot. The devil's in the details. Like it's hard to give a one word definition, because people apply different meanings to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Thank you for that, Steve. I mean, there's so many other words, and then you talked about indica and sativa. And now doesn't marijuana belong to both of those species, indica and sativa, but hemp does not belong to both?
Yeah. So if you're using the definition of marijuana to be intoxicating or having high THC in cannabis varieties that have high THC that get you high, that are used for whether medicinal purposes or recreational purposes, the term is sativa. But indica and sativa is also, from a genetic standpoint, the way you would determine the growing properties. So an indica versus sativa, like indica was originally from India, and some would grow with different weed leaf patterns. Some would grow taller, some would grow smaller, so they would be better suited for indoor or outdoor. And you would then have this hybrid version of it, where people would genetically modify the plants or breed them, and you get different results. So depending on, like in California in the early days, when you were limited to, let's say, growing 2 plants, you would want to breed a variety that would grow very large.
Yes.
And you can have just one stalk in the ground, and then you'd have this huge tree.
Exactly.
If you weren't limited to how many you could grow, then maybe you would want more stalks in the ground, and you would want it to grow smaller for each plant.
Right.
So, the indica and sativa, that's originally what it meant. Now, in dispensaries today, it means something different. So what Linda always says is indica is like indicouch. So you can remember, if you get an indica strain or variety, then an indica would be more sedative. So more people that need to calm down a little bit and want to relax. And then sativa being more uplifting and energizing.
True.
Well, that's what you would kind of hear now with those 2 vocabulary words, indica, sativa. And it's still in a I guess a discovery phase. These terms, they're evolving, and it depends on who you ask.
I love that. I love indicouch for indica.
It's a way you could, it's a way to help people communicate to consumers the properties of it. Unfortunately, if we get an indica, Linda could use it and she could be in the couch and I could be bouncing off the walls. So because our endocannabinoid systems are different.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sort of an evolution of these terms.
Oh yeah. Well, that's super cool. Well, along those different things you were talking about, before we were talking about the main 3 types of CBD that people will encounter, and they'll go, what is this? So broad spectrum, full spectrum, isolate, like what the heck,
Yes, that's another great topic. You want to dig into that now?
Yeah, go for it.
Of CBD.
Yeah, because you're the man when it comes to all of that, because you know all these different things. Like, I mean, I had it's in my book as well, but very simplified. And then I just start out, with the broad. I can't remember which one I start out with first, but help me with that, because you're the one that differentiates that with your products.
Yeah, I mean, and the main there's a lot of different concerns, but the term full spectrum,
yes,
is like full spectrum CBD is when we started hearing about full spectrum. And just like you think of a spectrum being full, it would have a wide variety of cannabinoids in the plant. Now, as a marketing or in the commercial world, full spectrum means that it does include a natural occurring amount of THC.
Yes. Okay.
So if you're shopping for full spectrum, that means it does have the natural occurring amount of THC in hemp, which we could probably use the word hemp and take some time to talk about just that word hemp and what it means. But so full spectrum hemp or full spectrum CBD means that it has less than 0.3% THC.
Right.
And that's what a full spectrum,
which is legal on a federal level, thanks to the Farm Bill of 2018. So that amount of, hemp, any transporting of hemp across state lines, and then the 0.3% THC is legal federally, not necessarily on a state level. Most of the states have made that legal, but that's an important thing to keep in mind as well.
Good point. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the next one was
broad. So that's the full spectrum.
Yeah.
And broad spectrum would be when the THC is removed. So that's more of a marketing term. When someone would see a broad spectrum hemp or broad spectrum CBD, it just means that there's been a process where the THC has been removed. Just as a caution to anyone purchasing, if you purchase a broad spectrum product, it really just means that they have other cannabinoids in the product, but THC was non-detected. So that doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just means it wasn't detected.
Okay.
And you have to be very careful on that. We have gummies that we market as THC free, and that's because they're non-detected, but there are still trace amounts of THC. It's really impossible to get all of it out of there in a broad spectrum product.
And the broad spectrum sounds like it's good for people who are trying to not have the THC, but then they want the health benefits of all the cannabinoids in the CBD. But I have been told and in my research, it has shown that you can still test positive for THC even on a broad spectrum based on the product. Like, maybe it wasn't properly produced, in terms of getting all the THC out, and then somebody can, it depends on the test, because I have lots of people who are incarcerated for marijuana, and the tests are these old tests that really are super strong though with detecting THC. So even in a broad spectrum, some people have been told me that they have tested positive for that, on occasions. So that's something to take into consideration. But then when you get to your isolate, what's the difference between broad spectrum and isolate CBD?
The isolate is isolated cannabinoids. So it should be only what you purchase. So you can buy it CBD isolate, THC isolate, all the cannabinoids you can get as isolates. We sell one CBN isolate, because CBN is like, there's a hierarchy of cannabinoids. Like when they all start as a CBG. It's cannabigerol. I think of the name. So CBG is the first cannabinoid that starts in the plant, and then based on genetics and temperature, harvesting, all this other stuff, they break down and evolve to either THC, CBD, there's CBC, CBG.
Wow.
There's a lot of other cannabinoids.
That's
CBN is the end of the road. So after if you have regular hemp flower or THC flower or buds, and you leave it in the sun, and or it oxidizes over time, it'll eventually end up as CBN.
Wow.
So what as a manufacturer, when you create this high pressure and heat, it can convert all these cannabinoids into CBN. The challenge with that is there are any chemical reaction, there's also some byproducts that happen. And when we wanted to release CBN, because people use it for numbers of conditions, it was recommended by a lot of the physicians we work with. We did an isolate, which really just isolates CBN in the bottle and nothing else, because we want to make sure that it's safe and there aren't any of these lingering molecules or compounds from this chemical reaction. So isolate is just what it says, and that's what so a lot of times people would make and through different extraction process, you can isolate at certain temperatures to get these compounds, and then you can mix them together again for certain things. But yeah, isolate, you should be safe from any THC contamination. It's always one of those questionable things. And if you're a government worker, or if you have a license like a CDL to drive a truck, and you're not allowed, and they're going to test you regularly, I still caution people, because you just aren't sure about, you really have to know the source.
Exactly.
And the testing requirements. But for the short full spectrum is everything that was in the plant, including THC. Broad spectrum, they rip out some THC, and isolate should be just those compounds that you're purchasing.
I love it. I love that. I love hearing about. I had no idea that I just always knew of CBD isolate. I didn't know all those other things can be isolated like that. And so I love that. Thank you, Steve. That's very educational.
Yes.
So cool. I love that on those isolates. But well, you brought up something else that was interesting. You said about the flower. You said something about the flower.
Yeah.
What are you talking about on the flower?
That's I love this word too, because people can always misconstrue what flower is. But a lot of times you'll go into a dispensary and they'll show you flower, and it's spelled FLOWER, like a flower, like a beautiful a rosebud or something like that. So a flower is CBD, or you can have CBD flower or hemp flower. And I want to do a quick quiz.
Okay.
With flower, because there's also people also call them buds or nugs or a lot of different things. But so I have two cannabis flowers. So we're going to use some of our vocabulary here. There's two cannabis flowers. One of them is hemp, and one of them is marijuana.
Wow.
Okay, so I wanted to see if you can tell the difference.
Okay.
We'll go 1 and 2. All right.
Okay,
so
1 and
2. And then you'll have to decide number 1 or number 2. All right, so this is number 1.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's really nice.
So we can get it.
Oh, yeah, right there. Oh, that's, wait a minute. It was focusing. Oh, that looks good. Wow, that is cool. So that's like that's the top of the plant with the flowers and the seed. Are there seeds in there too, or did it not go to seed?
There are not seeds in here.
Okay.
Males have the seeds. Females do not. Sometimes there are some seeds in the females. The U.S. Pharmacopoeia calls this cannabis inflorescence.
Oh.
So this is the flower. They call it cannabis inflorescence. This has all the trichromes in it, which are where the cannabinoids are. It's sticky and delicious. So this is number 1.
Okay.
And now I'm going to bring up number 2 here. And this is number 2.
Oh, wow.
Let's see if I can get
there. Yeah, that's really good. That's really clear.
Okay. All right. That's number 2. Now, can you tell me which one, number 1 or number 2 would be, which one is marijuana and which one is hemp?
I think number 1 is marijuana and number 2 is hemp.
All right. What makes you say that?
Personal experience.
Well, you know,
I mean, growing.
I played a little trick on you because
Okay.
they actually both were hemp.
Oh, really? They look so different.
But you really can't tell by the look of them.
Yeah.
If I do have here, I have another
That is
flower.
so
This
wild.
is a marijuana flower here.
Wow.
The size doesn't matter; it just happens to be.
There you go. That's perfect. Oh, wow. Okay.
So this is a marijuana flower. The different varieties. This is an orange grove.
Nice.
They have creative names for them. That was Orange Grove. The 2 hemp varieties I had, one was Sour Suver Haze.
Goodness gracious.
And another one is Forbidden V, which Forbidden V is interesting because it has a high in CBD V.
Oh.
Cannabidivarian or something like that.
Wow.
If anyone knows what that is, you can clear that up for us. But yeah, you can't tell by looking. That's why you need a lab test.
You really can't because, the first one really looked like it was full of like THC resin. I mean, it was loaded with resin. And so but that shows you the hemp can be loaded with resin just like.
It is. Yeah. It's literally, you can't tell the difference. They all should have the resin. That's where the cannabinoids and terpenes live. And they're in little crystalline little nubs called trichromes.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's how we tell when a plant is ready to harvest, by the color. And you can use a little microscope to get in and see whether it's clear. They start out really clear and transparent, and then they start to get a little cloudy, and then they'll turn a little brown or golden. And depending on what you're trying to do would determine when you harvest.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you for that, Steve. That is so.
But I did spell it FLOWER, and that's confusing because when you think about hemp flower, some people would think, well, like if I'm in the kitchen, there's another kind of flower.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I just so happen to have something to illustrate that point with you because I'm a foodie in the kitchen usually. Okay, so all right.
And you have some hemp flower there, right?
I happen to have some goodies here. Now, first of all, I just wanted to show everybody this because I'm crazy about this is hemp seed. These are the seeds of the hemp, which are so delicious. Not to mention the fact, insanely nutritious. This is protein right here. 3 tablespoons of this is around 10, 11 grams of protein, which is high for 3 tablespoons.
Right. Now, so those hemp seeds are hulled hemp seeds. So they're not, you can't plant those and grow cannabis, can you?
No.
It's like the hemp heart.
They're hemp hearts. Yes. Thank you. You're the expert on that. But no, you can't plant those. But these are so fantastic because they're loaded with antioxidants, and which are so good for you. And then what they do too is when people and we know what we need to do a whole thing. I don't want to get started because I will never shut up. But you and I should do a podcast on hemp powder, hemp seeds, how to make hemp oil. I mean, like the hemp oil you cook with, not CBD. I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions there. People don't know there's no CBD in this. This isn't like a CBD product necessarily.
Right, I mean, that's nutritional.
It's food. This is food. Yeah. Right. And so that means
hemp hearts.
Hemp hearts. Yeah. So that being said, your plant that you put up, if that were to be ground up, this is hemp powder. Right here. This is hemp powder. And that's made with what you had. Now, I think the plant you held up, could you hold one of those up, please?
Yeah, sure.
And we can just see the color comparison because I think it's just that way people can get a really good idea. Yeah. So, you grind that up and you mix it in with this. And then I'm not 100% sure, but I think they also have, that's perfect, Steve. I think they also have hemp seed hearts in there. But once again,
hemp flower, normally that flower, the powder does not, it's very complicated. Some hemp flower could have the inflorescence in there. Most of it that's used for cooking is just the hemp seeds ground up.
That's okay.
Used for like nutrition. But you did bring up another vocabulary word that is really confusing for people, which is hemp oil.
Yep.
Because people say all the time, we call ours CBD oil because it's CBD oil, but there's no hemp oil in the CBD oil, which is another confusing. So hemp oil can mean a lot of different things. Yeah. And you said it right. You said hemp seed oil.
Right. Right. And like I said, too, we could do another whole podcast on that, because just like your CBD that is very sensitive to heat and light, so is your hemp seed oil that you cook with, that you really shouldn't cook with. I mean, you should really use it cooler. Yeah, it's just like a CBD thing. You have to have it in a dark container, and it's very expensive. As you know, you have to, grind all these little seeds up to get oil. So it's expensive, but it's super nutritious. Oh my God, it's so good.
And that's really sensitive to heat too.
Yep.
Right? So,
and light.
How would you use it in the kitchen?
In salad dressings, and like if you made a pizza, drizzle it on after you cook the pizza. You could saute it in very low temperatures, or put it in a warm sauce or things like that. So
what kind of, so let's talk about the food aspect of this now, since that's your specialty. What do the hemp seeds taste like?
Oh my gosh.
Do they taste like marijuana or
no, they taste like, to me, they taste like nuts. It's like maybe a bit of an herbal nut, but not but very gentle on the herbal part. It's not strong at all. They're just have a light, nutty taste. I love them. I eat them almost every day in my oatmeal, and whatever. If I'm making avocado toast, I'll pour some hemp seeds on it. I mean, it's so easy to enhance things. Like I make in my recipe book, I have a recipe for Buddha bites, and they're little protein balls, and I load them with hemp seeds, and then I use the hemp seed powder. Now this does have a bit, this flour, or this is a different kind of flour. It does have more of a stronger herbal flavor, and it can kind of cover up stuff with the color because it's very dark, so you don't need that much either, because it's got so much protein in it. But it's much stronger flavor. But still, if you can
taste a little bit of the cannabis in there.
You can. You can. But then again, if you're mixing it with other, that's why I wrote the cookbook, because when my doctor's supporting it, he just said people don't comply with their medicines. They don't comply with CBD because it's like somebody mowed their grass and put it in your mouth, he goes, they're not doing it. And he says, so if they don't take it, there's no compliance, then, so I said, well, what if I mix it with food? He goes, well, now you're talking. So that's why I did that. Like the hemp powder mixed in with peanut butter, cashew butter, Rice Krispie cereals, oats, dried fruit, it's going to like tone that herbal flavor down, so it's not going to, and then even I put my CBD drops in there too. So I loaded up with the hemp seed powder, with the hemp seeds, and then with CBD oil. And it's, you don't taste it. Yeah.
That's you just, great. I can't wait to get in the kitchen with you and
me too.
Cooking, and taste these delicious recipes in your book.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
You mention them all the time, and you're making me hungry.
Oh,
but from a nutritional perspective, I have read that the omega-3 6-9 combination in hemp seeds is like one of the best on the planet.
It is, because like you just said, there's 3 omega components, 3, 6, 9, which there's not too many foods that are packed with that much, and this little tiny bit is just packed with that. Plus you get protein. And it's just, it's just, you can't beat it. It's just so good for you. Antioxidants, I think, and I'm not a doctor, but I think that they help combat the aging process, so I think that's really important. I mean, not just on the outside, but on the inside.
Well, yeah, anti-aging is a big industry and a big topic that we're all interested in talking about, is how do we slow down this process of aging. And cooking with cannabis and CBD can be done not just with the CBD, but I'm glad you brought it up, the flower and the seeds and the nutritional aspect of it.
Oh yeah.
And
the
people have
oil.
been using this for years and decades and thousands of years as a food source. So feeding it to animals, USDA is hopefully going to approve the hemp feed for animals, because now you can feed your farm animals hemp, but you're not allowed to sell them. You can't have USDA approved meats that have been fed hemp seeds.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's it.
Yeah. But I think they're working on that. That's this new farm bill coming out.
Oh, good.
They should. Let's hope they focus on the other benefits of cannabis, or hemp cannabis hemp.
Yeah.
That can deal with the fiber and grain.
Yes.
Because farmers can really use another crop, another cash crop, and instead of CBD or THC that most people think of cannabis for, the nutrition and fuel, building materials, clothing, they really need to open up those industries.
Oh, that's true. And one other thing, when you're talking about the oil and the CBD, I haven't even really talked to you much about that, but people think I'm crazy. I use CBD on my face every night. I use it topically for beauty, and I'm also still a licensed cosmetologist. And so I know about stuff like that. And so I'm always into exfoliating and everything, because I've learned that CBD helps rebuild your skin on a cellular level. And so, before, it's just like if you have, I'm into, feet and hands and everything. So if you have a lot of calluses on your feet and you think, oh boy, I want to get rid of those, I want my heels to be soft. And then you just rub oil on it. Well, you're rubbing oil on a bunch of calloused, dead skin. So you need to exfoliate it, get the dead skin off, and then put things in there so that it can be absorbed. The same with your face. You need to exfoliate your dead skin cells, and then I put the CBD on my face. I put a couple of drops up here. I could put a couple of drops under here. I put it around my mouth, and then I ended up putting it on my lips and use it like a lip balm, because my lips get chapped. But so then, and I rub it in and I do all this, jazz. One day, if you want, we can do a thing. But it really, my skin just loves it. It drinks it up. So it's good. It's, CBD is good topically as well for that. So,
well, that's a whole nother topic we should talk about. And I know a lot of, I don't, I do use some on my face for if I have dry skin. But now I realize that I should exfoliate first.
Yeah.
Before.
Right. Because, because once you get rid of those dead skin cells, then the new ones, because it's a cellular level, it's, it's coming from the bottom up. So if you have dead stuff, you can't, you want it to breathe. And I'm not using proper terminology.
Well, you have something in the book about, making something for skincare, don't you?
Well, yeah, at the very end, I got into some book bonus stuff, and I have a recipe for a beautiful face and a recipe for dogs and cats. But I've got one called Recipe for a Beautiful Face, and I have some ingredients on there. And you can, look how long that is. That's mostly skincare. What I'm writing about is what you do to prepare your face before you even do that.
Well, yeah, I see that the ingredients are very simple.
Yeah.
But the process and the method is what is the most important. It's how you use it,
Exactly. So in the future,
that really is a lot of good information there to help people get their skin clean naturally. Because if you look at, and I'm not an expert on skincare, believe me, but when you look at the ingredients on a lot of the skincare products, and it's just like food, if you can't pronounce it, you probably shouldn't be slathering on your face, because I do know that the largest organ in the body is the skin.
Yep.
So, and it does absorb things.
Yeah. And well, they also have used CBD topically for people who have acne, because it really cleans out the pores in the skin. And so they've used it to treat acne. And so, and also they said there's, I don't even want to get started with you. We'll never stop, because whenever I have it left on my fingers or my face, I rub it into the base of my hair, because your hair follicles are based in your skin. And so when their hair isn't, growing really healthy, the skin area, the pore around that gets clogged. So the CBD is really good at cleaning out the skin pores and the skin care.
Is it too late?
Yes, no, you go for it. You go for it. Yay, Steve.
No, I actually like not having hair. It's pretty easy. I can just buzz it down, and I've learned to embrace that a long time
Well, you
ago.
can still rub it. You can still rub it on your skin.
I do, yeah, I do. Well, because after I shave, because I do use clippers, and it does irritate my skin, so I do after shave kind of rub CBD all over it.
I love that. Great.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, thank you for letting me elaborate more. But like I said, we could do a whole thing on skin.
Yeah, we will. Let's go back to some vocabulary.
Yeah.
What else is on the list to talk about?
Well, we were both talking about bioavailability briefly, and I think we should talk about that, don't you?
Sure.
Most people go, "What is that?"
Right. Well, what is it?
Well, in a nutshell, like just in a simple thing, it means that your body, it's more usable to your body. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, is it?
No, I think it's how much of what is it you're using is available for your body to use. You know, so you can drink certain things, but because CBD compounds are fat soluble, that they get into and through, and bind to fat in your body. So there's the bioavailability is also relative to the routes of administration, because there are a lot of different routes of administration of cannabis. You can smoke it, you can vape it, which is inhaling into the lungs. The bioavailability of inhaled cannabis, they say, is very high.
It's true. That's true.
And that's very quick onset.
Yep.
And it doesn't last as long. The effects don't last as long, but it absorbs very quickly. And you should, I guess, of which you inhale, it would be highly bioavailable. However, the heat in lighting it and vaping it are different. So there's still some nuance there that's worth exploring. And we can maybe get somebody on here that's an expert in that.
Yeah, I have my own opinion, but we won't start now because I'll never shut up about vaping. And the doctors, when I work with doctors, they're all about, things. But yeah, no, I love that you said the difference between regularly smoking it, vaping it.
Right. Then you can use sublingual, which is absorbing under the tongue or on the buccal region, the cheeks. That would be a different.
You can do it on your cheeks, you said?
Yeah, on your cheeks, like
I didn't know that.
Like the tobacco pouches, they say you just put a pinch between cheek and gum.
Yeah,
and that's how nicotine absorbs into the skin, into the bloodstream, right through the capillaries between your cheek and gum, and also sublingual. So actually both. They call it the buccal region. I think it's Buccal, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And even I've seen some physicians recommend putting the CBD in your mouth and like swishing it around in your mouth, to get it on the cheeks and cover that. So sublingual is another way. Then orally, and a lot of people think sublingual and oral are the same, but they're not. No. They're not. Oral is ingesting it, and ingesting it in some delicious treats that are in your book are highly recommended.
Edible. That's another word for edible.
Edibles. Yep. Edibles. And edibles is like an oral consumption method. And the bioavailability, they say there is a little bit less because it has to go through the chemicals in the stomach.
Right.
And then it gets processed in the liver.
Yes.
So it doesn't go straight to the bloodstream. It has to go through your digestive tract and that process. So, you can look up the numbers, but I think it's much less. So if you were taking, let's say 10 milligrams underneath your tongue, it may absorb, let's say 40%. And if you ingest it or take it orally or in an edible, it may only be, 2 milligrams.
Wow, really? That big of a difference?
So yeah. So I think the rule of thumb that I've heard is about 4 times the amount you'll need if you're doing it, ingesting it through an edible or eating it. So
Okay, that's so interesting.
And the cannabinoids are also different. Some CBD versus THC, the way your body deals with it in the liver changes the compounds and how your body reacts to it.
I didn't know
So
that.
there's a lot. Yeah, there's so much, and we'll have to obviously get experts. We're not the experts on this, so
No.
to hold us to it, we're just here sharing information that we found.
Right.
And
I love that, but Steve,
then you can also use it topically, like you mentioned, on your skin, and it'll absorb into the skin. Most of the time, the formulas are just to be on your skin or soft tissue. You can have what they're called transdermal patches or creams, and they have compounds in there to help penetrate through the skin into the bloodstream.
Right.
And that's certain types that you can use. You can also use it rectally or vaginally. They make suppositories.
I didn't know that.
They do. I had people that are suffering from cancer. They make suppositories for, and I actually had a friend that was making them for her husband, and just another way to deliver the those compounds.
Well, so, just like you said, in your mouth, the mucous membranes and stuff like that, it gets into your system. Yeah. I mean, for that matter, you know what? Not that, I mean, I bet you could rub it on your finger and just rub it on the edge of your nose. I mean, you have mucous membranes there, and just, all the places where you have mucous membranes.
You can't don't put it in your eyes.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
I've done that before, and it not intentionally, but I put a lot on my, my brow, and then I went for a run, and it leaked down into my eyes, and wow, did it burn.
Oh, wow.
It really burns. That's I don't know if it's the cannabinoids or the terpenes, but it really burns. So don't put it in your eyes. And I don't think it's good to put oil in your ears either.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I don't do that. Yeah, I don't think so.
I wouldn't put it in your ear unless you ask someone first, ask a doctor first.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, this is good. Well, people too, they'd forget when they buy vitamins. A lot of times it'll say bioavailable, more bioavailable or water soluble, or and that's same thing applies to CBD, right? In terms of like maybe water solubles may be more bioavailable than oils.
Yes, and the water soluble, they take a surfactant and they nanoparticleize a lot of these terms they use, and they encapsulate the fat cell in water molecule, so your body absorbs it.
This is interesting.
That's the idea around it.
Right. So, makes it more bioavailable.
Makes it more bioavailable. They say you can absorb a much higher percentage of the compounds in that nanoparticleized.
Super cool.
Yeah.
That is so, gosh, wow, thank you. Man, we covered a lot of words in the vocabulary too.
I know, and there's probably more. Do you have any more on the list?
No, I think we got that
was actually, I'm looking down at your list right now since you sent it over, and it's really good. The one thing I did want to talk about when it comes to vocabulary is the type 1, type 2, and type 3.
Yes, that was it.
Cannabis.
Yes.
And this is straight from the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, which didn't produce anything on cannabis from like 1938 until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. I'm not really sure when it came back, but there's 3 types of cannabis. And it's one of my favorite trivia questions to ask, because when I ask someone at a dispensary, what are the 3 types of cannabis? They say indica, sativa, and hybrid. Those are the most common things that people say. But per the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, which is in the U.S., but there's also international pharmacopoeia, they refer to type 1 as a high THC variety or strain of plant. That's another vocabulary. We can use the word strain.
Okay.
So high THC is type 1. Type 3 is high CBD. And type 2 is a blend of 50-50. So that is the way they would suggest people starting to use cannabis, is to start with the type 3, which is high CBD, low THC, because you get the healing without the high.
Right.
And then you can titrate in THC to find your sweet spot,
Yes.
because medicinally you are looking to get relief from certain conditions, and you're not using it recreationally to sort of an escape or a ceremony to get to another level and a mental state. You're really looking to get relief from a certain condition.
True.
So that's really, they would actually suggest going from 3 to 2 to 1 if you're using cannabis medicinally.
I love that. I mean, because, you know, I always say less is more with CBD. I mean, you can always add more.
That's a good strategy. Yeah, that's a good strategy.
Yeah, is, you know, so gosh,
and less is more. And there's another term here which we can use, which is called biphasic.
Ooh, what's that?
Have you heard of that term related to cannabis? So biphasic, yeah, that is when you can use a certain amount of cannabis and get one result, and then there's like a bell curve, and then you can use more and you get a different result. And then you can get over the top where it could then take away those benefits as well. So that's why you want to be very aware and journal and just be very conscious of how much you're taking.
Yes.
And what your outcome is, because you can have, you know, a lot of us think if this is good, more must be better.
Oh yeah, right. If one is good, two is better.
Right, exactly. And that isn't the case with cannabis and a lot of things. But yeah, so biphasic is it relates to the way your body reacts to certain doses of cannabis.
I love that. And, you know, everybody's body is different. There's so, you know, that's another podcast we need to talk about, dosing dilemmas, because that is, there's a big, you know, a lot of information to talk about that.
All right, that's good. All right, so we've covered a lot of words. Is there anything else that in this vocabulary, just to make it complete, so we can really have a good list of vocabulary words? And then, you know what, it might be good to do at the end of this is just to, before we finish and let everyone go, is just to kind of walk through them and do like quick, like a definition, like a word, and then just say the definition, and then we can do a summary. So people that don't want to watch a 50-minute video of us talking and enjoying ourselves, but, you know, maybe they just want to get to the point of what these words are, you know.
I think it's a great idea. Why don't you start?
Miss anything else? Did we miss any words?
You know, I'm looking on our list. I think we got everything.
We did.
Yeah, I think we did. We did. Well, why don't you start? Because if once I start, I can't stop. I mean, I might weigh in on, like, when you get to the difference between flower, and you could hold, and then I'll do my deal, you know, but I'll weigh in if there's some, I'll chime in if there's something.
Okay. All right. So we'll start with the word marijuana. And marijuana refers to a variety of cannabis that has high THC or is intoxicating.
Yes.
Right? Is that a good?
Yes. I might add one other thing. I think marijuana has high THC and typically low CBD.
There you go.
Okay.
Good. All right. That's good.
Okay.
And let's do you want to do hemp?
Yes. Hemp is in the cannabis family, and hemp typically has high CBD and low THC.
Right. And hemp is also used, it's legally limited to 0.3% THC. So you're right, it's high CBD, low THC. And hemp is also used, they call it industrial hemp, for building materials, fuel, clothing, food.
Right. And the 0.3% of the CBD is legal federally, not on a state level, but the majority of the United States have it legalized, as long as it's hemp-derived CBD with less than 0.3% THC. So.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. One we don't talk about much is ruderalis, and honestly, I don't know too much about it other than it's just another variety that's not very common to be grown. And I don't know if it's. Have you heard the term feral hemp?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, because that's just hemp that grows wild, and I'm not sure if ruderalis is in that, but
I don't know. I've also heard of ragweed, and that was wild marijuana. But what little bit of research I've done on ruderalis is that it was a variety that was created to live in cold places like in Russia and cold northern places. And it was something that grew within around a 30-day period. And they were short and squatty and they grew quick and fast. And then boom, they had it. And there's not a lot of THC in it. So that's
it's hemp and cannabis is a very good bioremediator. So it pulls a lot of toxins out of the soil.
Oh,
so being in Russia would make sense. It could be around Chernobyl where they were cleaning the soil.
Could be.
They plant hemp to pull up all of the the chemicals there, which is another good topic, which is why third-party lab tests are really important, because if there's any heavy metals or pesticides in the soil, it's going to be pulled up in there. So how about full spectrum?
Full spectrum is CBD that has all the cannabinoids in it, and that includes a trace amount of THC.
Right. Full spectrum would be the natural. They refer to it as full spectrum CBD. When you're buying CBD, it's at full spectrum. That means it has all the natural occurring cannabinoids in the plant, and hopefully terpenes as well.
Okay. And what about broad spectrum, though?
Broad spectrum would be everything that we just talked about minus the THC.
Okay. Are cool. And then what about isolate?
Again, because I just got a call coming in.
Oh, sure. Well, you were saying about broad.
So broad spectrum is a full spectrum of cannabinoids from CBD, but the THC is removed. And this is for people that are concerned about a drug test or something like that. So they remove the THC. However, we still caution you that you still may fail a drug test because it's trace amounts and the way it's tested and so forth. It could build up in your system over time.
True. Agreed. And then isolate, CBD isolate. And
a CBD isolate is an isolated CBD molecule. So it really should be just CBD, nothing else.
And you know what, Steve, that's the one that I recommend to people that want to really be extra cautious on not having it show up on a drug test. But I said, it's only as good as the brand that you're buying, that you have to trust that brand to put on their label that it is what it is. But if it is, truly an isolate, then it shouldn't show up on a drug test. But once again, it's up to the consumer to make sure they...
Right, and you can buy an isolate of any cannabinoid. You can buy a CBD, CBC, CBG,
I love
THC,
that.
CBN, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
So yeah, you can isolate all these different compounds and purchase them. Now, there's there's isolated compounds, and there's also synthetic compounds where you can have a lab-made... you can synthesize these cannabinoids, so they can make them in a lab artificially. And that's another way of getting cannabinoids is the Epidiolex, which is a CBD approved by the FDA, I believe, is a synthesized CBD. So it's a synthetic made in a lab.
Wow, I have no idea. That's
seizures.
That I was just going to say, that's the only, to my knowledge right now, FDA approved a derivative from CBD that's sanctioned, because the FDA is not sanctioning or standardizing anything. But in terms of that, Epidiolex for seizures, for certain seizures, that's approved. But I didn't know it was synthesized. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So cool. Let's see what else.
Flower. So that was good.
Oh, yeah.
So cannabis flower. What's cannabis flower?
Cannabis flower is something that you have. It's the flower, the top part of it's a flower. It's the top part of the plant with
the buds.
The buds.
Yeah. Well, right. It is. So when we talk about cannabis flower, we do have to, most commonly known as the buds.
The buds. Yeah.
The buds, or the cannabis inflorescence, as they'll call it at the U.S. Pharmacopoeia. But as a chef, you also use cannabis flower, which is also hemp seed flower.
Right. Which is not to be confused. My flower is not to be confused with your flower. And the And that hemp seed flour is made from these hemp seeds.
Right. Which are the hemp seed hearts, which are the meaty part of, like, the nut part of it.
Yes.
And there are hemp hulls that are on the outside that
absolutely,
that are different. That are not to be confused with hemp hurd.
There it is.
Which hemp hurd is in the stalk that is used for there's hemp hurd, which is used for different building materials and things like that.
You're a cornucopia of information, Steve. I love it.
I have a good friend who makes kitty litter and actually it's chicken coop that hemp herds, because it absorbs a lot of the smell and ammonia, and it's really good for the environment. Gosh,
I love it. Gosh, I learned so much from you. Well, that was our flour and our flour. And then I think you were talking about the bioavailability, just what that means exactly.
Yep. Bioavailability, when it comes to really anything you're taking, is how much of that substance is available for the body to use.
Love it. Yep. And we went over all those types.
And there's different types. Yeah, there's different ways, different routes of administration that impact the bioavailability of what you're taking.
And then the thing that was the newest to me, well, a lot of the things I'm learning from you are new to me because you're so informative and knowledgeable. But the type 1, type 2, type 3s, I've not heard of that, and I had no idea that's how they kind of rank or rate.
Right. So what are the 3 types of cannabis, Stacy?
Well, the 3 types of cannabis, well, you mean type number 1 is they refer to that as marijuana, having the highest THC. They kind of go from high to low, it sounds like. So number 1 is the highest, and that would be the marijuana, which was the highest THC. And then type 2, well, then let's jump down to type 3. Type 3 is the lowest, which is CBD, the lowest amount of THC. And then in the middle, type 2 is when you mix 1 and 3, and you get 2.
Right. And if I had my wish, I would like the terms to be adopted in the dispensaries to use type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 1, you can use the word marijuana if you want, but type 1, type 3 being hemp derived, which is high CBD, and then type 2 being hybrid. As opposed to being the Indica Sativa hybrid story, actually being that 50-50 blend. And there is a lot to be said for this ratio of CBD and THC and how it interacts with the body. So that's really where, and when we talked about these different types, and the doctors suggest if you're just starting using cannabis as medicine, you start with the type 3, titrate in THC, which brings you into a type 2. And then depending on your conditions and where you are, you can go to a type 1.
So interesting. That's probably my most interesting thing right there is the types. But I think that's it, Steve. What are there any more?
I think we did a lot today.
I think we did a lot too.
I think we did a lot, and I appreciate your time, Stacy.
I love it.
I enjoy talking with you always.
Me too.
And we hope everyone enjoys our conversation and share it with people that you know. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're both available and happy to answer any questions. If we made any mistakes, please correct us. Let us know where we can improve, because we're always trying to learn more. We are students of cannabis, and even though we like to tell each other that we're experts and we are gurus, we are humble at the same time, and we're always looking to learn. So thanks everyone for watching, and thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more.
We will.
All right.
Happy CBD-licious cooking, guys.